So yeah, why me? This is a question we hear a lot, mostly from folks who we read about online, folks in these various online trichotillomania support communities who are writing to share their experience, and I think more accurately, to vent their very understandable frustration. In fact, this very question appeared in one of the comments that showed up at our YouTube channel, and it's that very question, that person's expression of pain, you could feel it in her words, that inspired us to do this video and to talk about this. I don't think this person was really looking for an actual answer, an actual reason why them. Most likely they were just venting their frustration, and maybe they felt comfortable enough in what we strive to make the safe surroundings of our YouTube channel to be able to express themselves like that. And this kind of frustration, this expression of frustration is totally reasonable, especially the longer you've been suffering with trichotillomania and the harder you've tried to find a solution without success. And here you are all this time later, no better off than you were before, and you have no idea what to do next or how long you're going to remain saddled with this problem, and you're wondering, why me? Why is it me that has to suffer with this? Again, totally understandable. Let me address that question for you next. Okay, so I'm not sure you're going to like this answer, but the truth is there really is no good reason why it has to be you. And by the way, it doesn't have to be you, it just turned out that way. Let me explain how this typically works. So let's start with this. Trichotillomania is not something you get, it's something you create. Not on purpose, of course, but what is trichotillomania? Well, in its essence, it's an unhealthy attachment or reliance on your hair pulling as a means of trying to feel better when you need some way to try to feel better. Now, how is that powerful attachment created? Well, once upon a time, however young or maybe older you might have been, there you were, minding your own business. Now, at that point, you'd never pulled a single hair in your life. You'd never heard of trichotillomania before. In fact, it never would have even occurred to you to pull your own hair out of your body, and especially to do it a lot. Now again, this is all before you ever pulled your very first hair, right? And so, how does it start? Well, I'm going to tell you how it starts. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And, this could happen in any number of different ways, and I think we've heard just about all of them over here. So just an example, you might have been a little kid, and you're in the back seat of the car on a long 6-hour drive home, and it's late at night, not exactly a lot to do or think about right then. And you were like, whoa, what's this? And it's kind of stimulating. I mean, it sure is more interesting than doing nothing, isn't it? So it would kind of be human nature to keep on doing that kind of thing, probably in the rather mindless way you were, continuing to entertain yourself in that way until lo and behold, by the time you get home, all your eyelashes or all your eyebrows are missing. Now, I use this as an example because it's actually a story we've heard a zillion times, or a story just like it. For example, there was one woman who talked about as a child having been in class one day, and she's looking at this kid across the way, and he's kind of tugging on his eyebrows, and she's thinking to herself, I wonder what that would be like. And just as you can imagine a curious kid might do, she tries it herself, and it's like, this is a lot more interesting than the teacher. Of course, she's not thinking all of this consciously, but that's the kind of mindset. Chances are that's what's going on in her mind right then. And she keeps doing it, and before you know it, it's out of control. But here's the thing you need to keep in mind. This hair pulling thing never really gets out of control. It just feels that way. See, if you practice anything long enough, it doesn't matter what it is, you're going to get good at it. In fact, you may get so good at it, you become what's called unconsciously competent at it. You're so good at it, you can do it sometimes without even knowing you're doing it. It starts to feel automatic, like it's happening on its own. And that's when the problem can start to feel out of your control, because you're not consciously controlling and directing it anymore, and thus the fear that starts to develop is like, wow, look at this thing that's happening, and I can't help it. It feels like it's happening to you instead of that you're the one that's doing it. So you see how this works? It's not really that you can't help it. It's just that, you've practiced it so much, you can practically do it, without even knowing you're doing it, which means you can also do it completely unconsciously. Now it's feeling super easy to do it and hard not to do it. That's when you start to convince yourself that stopping pulling really is hard to do, when in fact not pulling is actually the most natural thing in the world. So why you? There's no good reason for it other than, like I said before, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. What happened to you could just as easily have happened to anybody else if they're in the same situation that you were in. Think about this. What if you or a member of your family were sick that day? You all got in the car and drove home, or, driving to wherever you were going. And because of that, you didn't end up actually going anywhere that day. Well, then you wouldn't have had that first experience of pulling your hair in the car on the way home because, of course, you weren't in the car. And guess what? All these past 20 years would have been totally different. You might still, by this time, you're looking at this right now, you might still have never even heard of trichotillomania. Your life would have been totally different, right? So the bottom line here is, look, we can't change the past. We can't change what has been. You show up here today the way you show up here today. But what you can do is decide what you're going to do with all of this in the future. We have a saying over here: the past does not equal the future. Just because you've been so troubled with trichotillomania for all these years in the past really has nothing at all to do with what's possible for you in your future. In fact, do things differently in the future, anything differently, and you can't not get different results. Now, that may mean you need to look for alternative forms of treatment or therapy, or in our case, behavioral coaching, that because you're approaching the problem completely differently now, and it's kind of what we do, now you have a real opportunity to break free from this hair pulling junk once and for all. So again, even though it's totally understandable, why me? That question, that's not the question you need to be asking. The question you need to be asking is, what am I going to do about this starting right now? What am I going to do? What am I going to change? Who am I going to call for help with this right now that, maybe I wouldn't have considered calling before, or maybe I just didn't know about it? Those are the kinds of questions that are going to make a real difference for you in your life. Whereas, why me? That kind of question, just think about where that puts you mentally. It just kind of sucks you right back down into the problem, doesn't it? What can I do to start to change all this starting right now? That's the kind of question that has the potential to propel you in a completely different direction now. Hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please like and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to be able to notify you when we have new content, more helpful videos coming your way. And you know what? Go ahead and hit the reply button below and leave us a comment. Talk to us. How did this video impact you? If you're watching this video through our Facebook community page, please leave a comment there. We'd love to meet and chat with you. If you're watching this video at our YouTube channel, feel free to leave your comments and questions there as well. And, in fact, if you have questions about trichotillomania or hair pulling in general, and you're just not quite sure where to go for answers, please feel free to visit our website's questions and answers page at trick-free.com/qa.html. We do actually look through all the questions that come in to us very carefully, just like we do all the comments and questions that show up here at our YouTube channel. So again, please be sure to like and subscribe here, okay? You don't want to miss any of what's coming up here in the near future. If you'd like to reach out to us directly to get some information about how we can help you or a loved one, feel free to visit our website at www.trick-free.com or to call us at any time of day or night, toll-free at 833-TRICK-FREE. Thanks again for watching. I'm Robert Mantell with the Trichotillomania Relief Specialists. Here's wishing you an amazing trick-free week.